Flood. This topic is relevant with the geography lecture, but I have included some current affair topics also, and this repeats every year. So this is not something related with the particular year, that this year in the 2020 we have seen flood kind of situation in Hyderabad, but in the subsequent year also in the 2021 we will see some areas being flooded. So what is the reason behind flood? Why flood occurs? What is flood? And why northern India faces too much flood every year if the monsoon rainfall is high? So moving ahead, we will see flood. So I have divided this lecture into three parts: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 will be relevant with the northern part of India. Why flood occurs? What is the reason behind flood? What is the sedimentation causes flood? Then in the phase 2 we will discuss the dams related issue, while that really dams checks the flood, or what is the reasons or what is the issues behind the creation of dams. And in the phase 3 we will discuss why urban area faces flood and what will happen during that flood. What is the reasons behind flooding in the urban areas? So moving ahead in the part 1, phase 1. So we have to understand what is flood. See, what happened, let us suppose this is a jar and there is a water in it. Okay, so when this jar will be full of water and water will start pouring out, that will nothing but your situation of flood. Similarly, when the river crosses the banks of it and it enters into the human areas or the other livelihood areas, then we will call it as a situation of flood, and it will covered with water only, and it happens due to the rising of water level in the river as it crosses the banks of the river. So the question is, why rivers get flooded? See, this is a jar. When river flows, it carries lots of sediments with it. Okay, this is a normal kind of situation, that is common sense, that when the river moves, it carries lots of sediments. And in the northern India, river flows from the Himalayas, maximum river flows from the Himalayas only, so that carries too much sediment from Himalayas region. So what will happen, sediments density is high, so it gets settled down in the bottom. Okay, so this is your jar, this is your sediment. Now when monsoon comes, the rate of flowing, the speed of river flowing will increase because the water level will increase. Or even if there is no monsoon, if the water level is increasing, the speed of the river will also increase. As we know, river flows from high density, high level to low level. Anything, if any water or electricity is also flowing, it is only because of potential difference. So if river is flowing, there is a high difference. So if the river, the water level increases or the rainfall increases or if the ice melts too much due to summer issues or due to the heating of the Himalayas, then the speed of the water level will also increase, water flow will also increase, and ultimately it will erode too much of land. The erosion of the land will also increase, and when the erosion of land will increase, the settling of the sediment on the river bed will also be increased. So now, like suppose in the normal year, river, the level of sediment was this, and when the rainfall increases or the water level increases, whatever the reason behind the increasing of the water level, if it increases, the sedimentation process will also increase, the sediment carried by the river will also increase, and ultimately this sediment will come above. Now the space for the water to flow will be less. So now what will happen, this water will come out, this water will come out of the jar. So if the sediment will increase on the bed, river bed, then ultimately your water will be poured out, and this will cause a cause a situation of flood in the regions. So this is the basic reasons behind the flooding of northern India. And flooding is not related for the northern India also. It will cause the same situation in all over the place where the flood happens. So this is the basic, this is the layman term explanation with the technical example. So what is written in the slide we will see. So northern India remains flooded every year during the monsoon season, and due to the lack of development in the flood forecasting leads to huge damage, thus unable to warn the citizen on time. Like we failed in enabling the warning situation on time, and this create too much damage to the life of the people. So why do river floods? I have explained here. Same thing is written here, as the most of the rivers in the northern India parts are Himalayan rivers, and during rainy season the amount of rainfall increases, and this will tend to increase the amount of water present in these rivers, and this water brings more sediments along with the huge water. This bring lots of sediments to the water, and initially these sediments get deposited on the bottom level of these river channels, and when the amount of sediment increases very huge, the space available for the water flow decreases. Now earlier when the sediment was this much only, the space for water to flow was this one, but when the sediment level increases, the space for water to flow is decreased. Ultimately this causes river to overflow, and this overflow of water from the river channel is nothing but is called flood. So what can we do to check flood? So one of the reason, if we clear sedimentation from the river bed every year, or like we pour sediments out from the river every year and we use it as a fertile soil, because these soils are too much fertile because it carries nutrients with it. So if we use those sediments and we create a space for water to flow, more space to water to flow, ultimately we will see no flooding in the regions. So this is the reason behind the flooding and why do floods occur. Okay, so moving ahead, so what are the technology we used in forecasting of the flood in India? So one of the technology that we use, that is the prominent technology that we only use, that is the radar technology. How this radar technology used, I will explain it here. Like this calculate the amount of cloud accumulated over one region. Okay, it calculates what amount of cloud is accumulated over a region. If the cloud is too much, then it will forecast that it will get heavy rainfall or it will get less rainfall. But there is also one issue, I will explain it in the next slide. So what is radar technology? It is this technology tells that if rainfall happening in the mountainous area or any region, or that could have any region that have a too much rainfall in coming 1 day or 2 days or within a 24 hours, then it will calculate through the cloud accumulating over the regions and it will tell that. So it is through radar technology. It does like echoes kind of thing. Like if you have heard that bat in Hindi, that is chamgadar. So bat get its direction to move through echo sound, producing echo. So similarly, radar technology is like it sends the message and it receives the signal from that cloud as in the form of echo, and through that technology, through that method, this is the basic, this is the base of this technology, we understand that how much of amount of cloud is accumulated over there and how much rainfall will occur in coming days. So this will help in forecasting the flooding of the river, and it works like that. It transmits pulse of electromagnetic waves, as I have said here, this one, and we will receive returning echoes from the cloud formed, and in this way we calculate the amount of rainfall in the coming days. So warning should be received from 24 hours before. Even this 24-hour warning is very little. See what this radar technology currently used to do, that it gets the information and it gives accurate information before 24 hours only. And it may also fail. It is not like that if they predicted it is going to happen, but the most chances the prediction of there is true. So the time that is given by them, the timeline given by them is for 24 hours. So 24-hour warning is very little time to move one village from one place to another by giving warning to them. Within 24 hours it is very difficult. So that's what we have to improve. Even the warning system should be at least 40 hours should be there. Even 2 days time should be given there. Okay, so the type of warning currently issues, and one of the issue with the type of warning that radar technology gives, that it will say river level is rising, river level is falling, or rainfall is rising, or rainfall is falling. This is not radar technology give. I will tell you that which agency is responsible for it, but it is calculated through radar technology only. Then we analyze all those data, then we say all these things. So when the type of warning that we give is like, if river level is rising, we will say that river level has rise to the red marks or the danger mark and all, and falling, that river level is falling down. So this kind of representation is not have that much of impact. To give you that much of impact, you have to give some authentic kind of situation, like you have to explain some time, that at what time this river will flood, at what time this water level will rise to that area. So this only two terms, that rising and falling, will not have a such impact. Thus we lead significant loss to life and properties, because it does not have that alarming situation. It does not create an alarming emergency situation between the people. If there is emergency kind of things, people will automatically move from that region. Okay. So what is the issues behind forecasting in India, that flood forecasting in India? The only issue is that two agencies there, that is multiple agencies there, and there is not coordination, that too much coordination between them, and the lack of coordination and delay in time of forecasting, that create a significant loss to the life and property. This is the issue. So what are the multiple agencies? Two agencies responsible for flood in forecasting in India. One is Indian Meteorological Department, IMD, and another is Central Water Commission, CWC. Now see how they work. IMD will give weather forecast. IMD is responsible for giving weather forecast, like what kind of situation will happen in after 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, and then CWC will use that data forecasted by IMD, and then it will calculate if river water will rise or fall. See, only two parameters, if the river level will rise or fall. As I've explained, this don't have that much of impact. If you're telling that river level is rising or river level is falling, you have to give some more explanatory parameters for calculating flood kind of situation. So CWC will use that data and it will calculate whether river level is rising or falling. So see, IMD will forecast, then CWC will take the data, and then it will analyze, and then it will say whether the river water level is rising or falling. So this whole process is too much inefficient and delayed, that it does not create an urgency kind of situation, and ultimately life and property of the people get damaged. Further, we don't have a significant defined prediction. Although we have a satellite facilities and other technologies like GPS and all, but we don't have a defined prediction for flooding areas, because it ultimately create a life and damage to the life and property, and we are not utilizing all those things. We have to move, we have to generate some another technology, or we have to use the existing technology with us in more efficient manner. The key to preserve any human being from natural disaster is only and only the early warning system. Nothing you can do. If you are going to face any natural disaster like earthquake, like flood, like cyclone. The only key to preserve life and property is through early warning. Nothing you can do, and in this only we are failing. And this flood is not a situation of current only, we are facing it from long back, and still we have too much issues in forecasting and checking of those floods. So we have to overcome on those issues. We will see that what the way forwards can we do. So let us move to the phase 2 of this lecture, how dams help in checking the flood. And really dams will help in maintaining ecological balance or also, because we haven't talked about dam in the phase 1. So moving ahead, so how we can check the floods. So two methods we have. One is through by building embankments and another is through dams. We can save any floods. Embankment is, you will see that it will like this kind of a structure, and in this water will be accumulated, and when this, even if this water level rise, then this embankment will also get overflow. So how this will happen? So embankment, yes, embankment can help at a certain level in checking the floods, but really dams we can do. See, when we construct any dam, it holds lot of water, and yes, it is true, it will help in checking the floods. It means it will help in stopping the flood in particular areas. But what is the drawback of this dam? See, this dam holds huge water, and ultimately the weight occurring beneath the dam, beneath the land of the dam, is very high, and this kind of situation may create human made earthquake that was seen in 1967 in Koina, Maharashtra. This was by the human made earthquake. What happened when the weight of the area get increased by the holding water by the dam, it ultimately changed the structure of the rocks present beneath the dam, beneath the land present in the dam, because of due to intense heat and pressure. So if you see, there is a different kind of formation of rocks. One is igneous rock, another is metamorphic rocks, and then you have a sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rock is kind of rocks that is prepared with the intense heating and pressure of the sedimentation. Then we have igneous rock that is created through the magma and all. Then we have metamorphic rock that is formed due to the change, that is a change in the form of another rock, and this created by the intense pressure or heat occurring on that area. So this metamorphic kind of situation used to occur by creation of dam, because the pressure on that land will increase, and if the plate beneath the land of the dam is weak, then it will create a huge disaster. It will be a disaster kind of situation for that area. So that's why dam helps in checking the flood, but it is a huge cause of disaster for that particular area. And further, if you create dams, you need land, you have to clear forest, so ultimately you are disturbing flora and fauna of that region too. And if the tribal peoples are living in those areas, then you have to shift those, you have to rehabilitate those tribal people. So these are the issues related to the dams. So what is in the slide, we will see. I have explained you everything. So building of embankments and dams will save any place from floods, but it has a disadvantage as well. So dams wherever they are construct help in preventing floods, but disadvantage is that these dams are large concrete structure and they end up ending huge tons of water, and it imposes significant weight on the ground surface, and due to this it may lead to deformation of the rocks, and this deformation, this changing in the formation of rocks, and if a new rock is getting prepared then it will call metamorphic rocks, but this will take time. Here the deformation of rocks present means the disturbance in the rock present beneath that land, and ultimately if the disturbance occur beneath that land it will create earthquake in that region. Okay, so when there is a deformation of rocks happen, it will lead to readjustment between the rocks themselves and will ultimately lead to occurrence of earthquake, and this is called as a human made earthquake or reservoir induced seismic action. This may come in exam as a MCQ. This will be called as a reservoir induced seismic action, and right now no dams construction is happening. That's why I have not included in the phase 1, because this is not a danger for us right now. This is not a problem for us right now. Whatever the dams have been created, it is there. We are not moving in creation of a further new dams. So these dams and embankments which are exist help in checking the flood. An example of human made earthquake or the reservoir induced seismic action is Koina in Maharashtra. We faced this human made earthquake in 1967. Okay, so what is the way forward? We will include that phase 1 and phase 2. So we have to improve our forecasting methodology, and it should be not based on the 24 days. It should be at least 48 hours, but if it is more than that, it will be very good. So a kind of forecasting which will provide lead time to 7 to 10 days we need as an advanced warning, and it gives idea for related different scenarios as well, like giving an idea about a water level and probability of flood, like what is the probability of flood is coming into that area. People will also be aware, and ultimately the damage to the life and property can be stopped if we give earlier forecasting. And it is not efficient in India because we don't have enough radars. It is one of the problem that we don't have an efficient reading, and another we have a multiple agencies. That is also one of the problem, that it creates delayed in analysis of the data. More radars will give more comprehensive pictures, as if we have more number of radars we will have a more comprehensive pictures, and this may even lead to alarm even before rainfall by formation of cloud. We can check by the echoes production by this radar methodology. I have explained it here to this radar technology. So it will predict the coming of flood. Second, if we use supercomputers, like the data that we collect of the cloud or the forecasting that are very huge, that is the minute per minute or the second per second data is coming. So for calculating all those data we need supercomputers. So ultimately the speed of the calculation will increase significantly. So it will simulate or predict more accurately about possibilities of floods. And in India we have 2 supercomputers. Remember, this can come in exam as an optional one. Which are the 2 supercomputers in India that we use? One is Pratyush and another is Mihir. The point to remember this name, remember that Pratyush, you have one friend called Pratyush, another friend is Mihir. Just make this as an key to remember these 2 names. So Pratyush and Mihir, which are slowly and steadily used for weather forecasting by Indian Meteorological Department. Okay. Another thing, we can check flood by desilting. As I've explained, the reason behind the causing of flood is accumulation of silt in the river bed, and ultimately the space creation for flowing of water level is reduced, and this cause overflow of river bed, and ultimately this flows in the river bank areas and the regions around the river get flooded. And this is also one of the reason of changing the course of the river. Like if the river is flowing in this direction, when the sedimentation will occur, then ultimately river will change its course and it will start in flowing in another direction. So if we use desilting, then we can be able to check the flooding of the river. So removing the silt deposited within the river channel, it lead to greater space being created where water can flow. And dredging kind of situation. What is dredging? Process to carry desilting work is known as dredging. So we have to perform dredging also, so that desilting can be done. And if we have water body and had a ship like structure, pumps and pipe will be injected and will collect the silt and thrown out the banks of the river. This process is called dredging activity. So it has explained that how we can do desilting process, like if we can pump any pipes and all, like as we pump out petroleum, similarly we can use the device in desilting, where it will pump out the silt or the sediments present in the river bed. Okay, that is desilting process. So moving ahead, phase 3 of this lecture, you can pause the video lecture and then come back and watch it again. So in this phase 3 we have topic why urban areas is getting flooded and what kind of disaster is produced by it, and what is the reason behind the flooding of the urban areas, why it happens. So moving ahead, so it has been taken recently, like for this year Hyderabad was flooded, and that's why I have taken this topic. And for the next year also you will get some another place, only the name of the place will change, but some area will get flood. Okay, so this is relevant for every year. Whenever you are watching this lecture, it is relevant for you. So why Hyderabad was flooded? The reason behind the flooding of Hyderabad was the accumulation of low pressure. Too much low pressure was accumulated over in the Hyderabad, and when the low pressure occurs, the cloud in the higher pressure will move to the lower pressure, and ultimately this rain laden cloud will burst down, will rain down in that regions, and it will create flood like situation. Because of the low pressure, too much cloud will move there, and ultimately the amount of rainfall will increase. I will explain it in more layman term. See, when this is a mountain, so how the river will move? It will move in this direction. Why? The potential difference is very high, and ultimately whatever the object will go, it will be go like that. Similarly, when low pressure is created and high pressure is created over another region, so the movement of air will always be from high pressure to low pressure. Similarly, river also flows. The reason behind high, that is the difference with the potential difference, that high pressure to the low pressure. Similarly, your electricity comes in your house, it is because of only high pressure to low pressure. So just keep it in mind, whenever the flood or cyclones happen, it is only because of the movement of air from high pressure to low pressure. Okay, so the low pressure was created in the Hyderabad region, and this right now we are facing retreating of monsoon. So retreating of monsoon also creates low pressure in southern part of India, and ultimately rainfall occurs in the retreating monsoon. Okay, as in the monsoon period, monsoon come into India because of high pressure in the Arabian Sea or the Bay of Bengal and low pressure on the mainland India. So this bring monsoon in India, and when monsoon comes into India, mainland India, so it will create high pressure in that regions and low pressure in the southern India. So this will cause retreating of monsoon, and that monsoon will return, from that mainland to the Arabian Sea, to the southern India regions. But in general case, this does not carry rain with it. Less rainfall occur in the retreating monsoon. But if that retreating monsoon is moving from the Bay of Bengal and it is hitting the Indian coast, then in that case, when that wind is flowing, when that air is flowing from that Bay of Bengal, it will carry water from that Bay of Bengal, and ultimately when it hits again the Indian coastline, it will cause rainfall in that area. So the retreating monsoon may also cause huge rainfall in that area. Okay, so in this Hyderabad, it was because of the Bay of Bengal, the wind blowing from the Bay of Bengal to that Hyderabad regions, and it was in this direction, like if this Indian coast, so the direction of the wind which was observed, it was in this direction, and still the data is coming on. So ultimately what happens, the main thing you have to remember, not direction and all, nothing else, the main thing you have to remember, the low pressure was created too much here, and ultimately the area which have a high pressure moved to that low pressure area, and it gives huge rainfall and it causes flood. This was the reason in the flooding of the Hyderabad or any place within the any country or India or all. It is because of that reason also, because of the creation of low pressure, and the wind is blowing from high pressure to low pressure, and that wind that is carrying high pressure to low pressure has a water loaded in it, and thus it gives huge rainfall in that low pressure area. Now we will see with respect to that Hyderabad regions, like why it happens, and it is not relevant to Hyderabad. You can compare with other regions too in the coming years if it is getting flooded. So traveling low pressure system leads to the huge rainfall in Hyderabad, and due to low pressure, air on the ground level rises up, and due to hitting of the ground surface, it creates low pressure. Why low pressure? I forgot to explain it here. So why low pressure is created? See, this is a summer time. So what happens when the land get heated up, the moisture present on the land will raise above. Okay, and this will create a situation of doldrum. Not doldrum in that region, doldrum actually happens in the equator regions, but it will create a situation of low pressure. And when this low pressure means, just consider that it becomes a vacant place. Now the air present in the surrounding will try to fill that region, and when they try to fill that region, it create too much speed to the disaster, the collision between the two clouds, and it will cause rainfall in that region. Okay, so just consider low pressure as a vacant place, and the air surrounding that place will try to fill it up, and that's why it create a rainfall, because that high pressure wind has loaded water in it from the Bay of Bengal in the case of Hyderabad, and the rainfall occurred. So naturally it leaves a vacant space near the ground, and on October 11, 2020, that I've taken the topic from that there. So this low pressure system originated on the Bay of Bengal and moved towards west, and thus it gives rainfall. So it loaded rain bearing clouds which brought significant amount of rainfall, and over the whole duration of the summer season, this is significant, hitting on the Bay of Bengal, and all the rain bearing clouds are attracted towards low region, and thus brought significant amount of rainfall. And this low pressure system brings rainfall across the eastern coast of India, and we measure that speed of that wind and all through knot unit. So urban areas are flooded every year, like Chennai, Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad, Delhi. Sometimes we hear these regions are getting flooded every year due to rainfall. So I will explain that the reason behind monsoon, also La Nino, El Nino effect in the separate lecture. This is related to the flooding, and how this La Nino and El Nino affect the flooding, I will explain in the separate lecture. So what is the reasons behind urban flooding? Why we see that urban flooding, and this create too much disaster to the, that is affect, that cause harm to the life and property of these regions, because they are developed, these are not rural areas. Rural areas you have too much space, but in urban areas we don't have. Why? We face too much flooding in those urban areas because of poor infrastructure, that we will see in this slide. So poor urban planning is one of the reason for the urban flooding. We have a poor architecture and drainage system. The drainage system that we have in the cities are existing are the old one. In Hyderabad, there is the one of the oldest city. The drainage system or the architecture of the buildings and all are very old. We have to change it. That poor urban planning leads to that flooding kind of situation. And further, the plastics or the metals that we use and we throw in the garbage, it used to choke down all those easily, and it does not allow rainfall water to flow into the river present in that region, and ultimately that place get flooded with the rainfall. Second issue, concretization of urban landscape. What happened? Due to increasing population, pressure on land is high, the large number of buildings are built, and as the large number of buildings are getting built, the using of materials, the pollution done by them, like the choking of the drainage system and all, is increased. And further, the lots of buildings structure standing in those areas creates very less space for water to go away, and ultimately this create a situation of flood. Like suppose right now this is a land, there is a too much place to water to flood. Now you have constructed one and one another building. Now these area are left for water to go away. Now you have built again 3-4 building. Now see, the area has been decreased for water to go away. So what will happen when the rainfall will increase, the water level will increase, the speed of the water will increase. As you are reducing the area, the speed of water will increase. So that is the one reason, that concretization of urban landscape. Another, excessive rainfall in short duration, that is a natural disaster. This we can't control, and this happens because of global warming. So if we can control over global warming, we can control over it. Due to global warming, we are seeing unusual pattern of rainfall, and this creates sometimes a creation of flood or sometimes a creation of drought. And flood and drought are also related with the that is El Nino and La Nino effect. We will see in the monsoon lecture in the geography. So lakes, wetlands, open areas are encroached by construction activities, and ultimately these lakes are also not getting filling up, and all those Hyderabad that is urban areas place are not getting water accumulated in those regions, are not getting way to move in the rivers, and ultimately we will see a flood kind of situation. But in Hyderabad, that Hussain Sagar lake and all were overflowing this time. So in Hyderabad it was absorbed, that lakes of Hyderabad were overflowing and increased the problem, and need of rainwater harvesting is required at every place. Like if there is a house, so in the underground you should have a one tank that can store the river water, and it will help in recharging the underground water also, and you can use those water in during drought kind of situation. Okay, so I hope you understand the reasons behind urban flooding. So I have explained all those aspects with the flood in the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, in the 3 parts. If you have any doubt, please feel free to ping on my Twitter handle given in the description. Please like and subscribe. Your subscription is a form of payment for me. If you have any feedback, or if you have want any on-demand video lecture, please feel free to ping on my Twitter handle. Thank you.